In today's video, we're doing a budget on-road racer build using the Louise LTX 10 scale RC touring car kit. Now, this kit is really beginner friendly, but you are going to need to provide your own electronics, tires, wheels, body, and tools. It does have a fairly common wheelbase and track width, so finding bodies for this is going to be no problem at all. It does recommend using 65mm diameter tires, and pretty much all 10 scale touring car tires are going to fit on this thing. When you open it up, it is nice and neat inside. In fact, most of these small parts bags are inside of this really huge bag. The only parts not in that big bag is going to be your drivetrain setup, and then your carbon fiber chassis and top brace. You also do get a nice little manual. Now, it is kind of small and some of the things are a little hard to see, but overall it does a pretty good job of telling you what needs to go where and how to put it there. You do also get shock and diff oil, along with a pretty cool sticker sheet. I love that like flag internal logo for the Louise sticker up here. It's pretty sweet. Now, this thing comes loaded with a fair bit of carbon fiber and aluminum, and it also shares quite a few similarities to another car we already built on the channel. So let's get up to the studio, take everything out, and give you guys a closer look. Alright guys, with that big bag open, you can get a much better look at what all you're actually getting with this kit and what you're gonna have to assemble. And as you can see with a couple of these bags, some of the work is already done for you. For example, in bag A here, the shocks are already pre-assembled, and all you're gonna have to do is open up the top, add your shock oil, and bleed them off. Same thing for your front and rear diffs in bag B. All you have to do is take that face gear off and fill them up full of oil. And once again with bag C, exact same thing, your turnbuckles are already pre-assembled, which is absolutely awesome in my book. And then of course your drive shafts are pre-assembled and ready to go as well. So we're gonna take all these parts bags, this instruction manual, some stickers and oil, and we're gonna build ourselves a 10 scale electric powered touring car. Unfortunately, this is where the video took a turn for the poopy side. I had accidentally knocked over the camera and slightly bent the audio cord cable input into the camera. This caused a horrible static sound without picking up any audio for the entire build. Quite a significant bummer, especially with how in-depth we were digging into the car during assembly and the challenges we faced, along with some quick tips learned from building the Louise LDX and LRX in previous videos. Speaking of trouble, right off the bat we had a little hiccup with one of the shock pistons as we filled up the shocks full of oil. The piston was slightly oblong in shape, causing a bind about halfway up inside of the shock body. Easy swap out with another piston we had laying around, but it is something to note. There are two other piston hole options in the kit, but only putting a different hole piston on one corner can cause the car to handle funny, so I'd recommend swapping all the pistons out to one of the other options if this happens to you. After that little hiccup though, the build went fairly unproblematic. The diffs and shocks being pre-built helped speed up the build process. While waiting for the air bubbles to get out, you can jump right on over to assembling the chassis. You will need to provide your own thread lock for a couple steps, like the center gear shaft setup. As for the suspension though, I was surprised they included plastic hinge pin holders, with the LTX being an upgraded version of the LDX, but it's an easy upgrade in the future to the optional aluminum ones Louise offers separately. Same deal with the outdrives. The plastic ones have proven to hold up in the past, but it's always peace of mind to see metal there. Other than that, the suspension bolts right up nice and quick. The fit and finish of everything is really good, just like the other Louise models. However, with this car we did slightly sand down a couple arms to help smooth things out. It's not completely necessary, but a free car is a fun car. Moving on, the steering setup on these Louise cars are simple, but always feels super smooth and decently quick. The floating servo mount is just a trick touch on this guy. For the electronics, I wanted to really feel how similar this car handles with these upgraded parts over the LDX, so that's exactly what we're doing. Robbing the Connect 4600 kV brushless setup, which also will allow us to run 3S in this guy. Gotta grab that SRT CH7012 servo as well. This servo just rocks in an on-road car, tons of steering really quick, and feels like butter as you crank on the wheel. Once fully assembled, you can see all the extra goodies you'll have left over, lots of extra hardware and even out drives. Although they did short us on one 3x6mm button head screw, I think all the extra stuff makes up for it. And with the chassis build nearing completion, it's time to show you what dope body we're throwing on the LTX. And that's going to be this guy right here. This is the Revenge Equalizer 190mm RC touring car body. Now this thing looks absolutely rad. I'm not sure if the wheelbase is going to be perfect with the Louise LTX, but it's going to be close enough. We may just have to trim the fender a little bit. And you may have noticed from me rubbing it, this thing is really thin. In fact, this is the ultra thin version of the body. It comes in 3 types. There's a standard, a light, and an ultralight like this one. and check out how thin this thing is. I mean, it is like paper. So perhaps I'm overestimating my driving skills a little bit, because one solid hit with this and it is absolutely going to be shredded. But if you're looking for maximum performance and weight savings, this is the way to go right here. And with the body, you are going to get a rear wing in the same thickness Lexan as the body shell itself, along with a really nice little decal sheet and of course the window masks. All right, so before we throw the motor and ESC into the LTX, I just wanted to give you a little side-by-side view with the LDX that we are stealing the electronics from. And as you can see, these cars look very, very, very similar. And that's due to the fact that it is almost 100% parts compatibility between the LDX and the LTX. This guy is basically the souped up better version of its younger brother over here. The front clips and the rear clips are completely compatible. It's just the stuff in the middle that you can't transfer over unless you transfer all of it over. And it's mainly due to the fact, like, this servo mount over here won't clear because the tub in the chassis. Maybe it will if you cut it up. Then you also have the motor mount back here. This has the adjustable metal standard mount you'd see in most RC cars. And this has this thing created by the devil himself with this circle. And you stick it in here and you gotta rotate it to get the mesh right and adjust it. And then stick this gear cover over the top. You actually got metal threaded shock bodies on this guy instead of plastic and spacer adjustable. The sway bars already come pre-installed from the factory. You can install them on here if you want. Louise does have a kit. Aluminum hexes on the LTX, plastic hexes on the LDX. Of course, carbon fiber shock towers, standard plastic shock towers. Way better motor mount like we already mentioned. Floating servo mount of a much higher quality than just the regular plastic mounted into the chassis. Same aluminum bell crank posts on both, just anodized different colors. Same difference up front as the rear as far as the suspension goes and sway bars and all that, and then just a carbon fiber top bumper brace on this one. And then of course the huge change is that carbon fiber chassis and carbon fiber top deck. Now this won't fit on this car by itself simply because of this motor mount. It won't let the brace clear on there. And surprisingly though, one thing you would think they would include in the LTX would be metal hinge pin holders, but they are still plastic just like the LDX. And speaking of metal, aside from the hinge pin holders, there's a ton of upgrades for these guys, including rear hubs, spindles, caster blocks, aluminum bell crank optional gears, and probably more that I'm missing. Lots of people out today, but I think we found a pretty good spot. I'm gonna do some speed runs. We're gonna try 2S first, then 3S, and then we're gonna try to do a little bit of track lap stuff. I think I found some cones behind me, so it might work out pretty good. But here is the car with the electronics in it, all ripped and ready to go. We got the GPS really crappily taped in the front of this thing. Little 2S shorty pack in here. Did have to move that battery brace up to the front position, and then we'll put it back for the big one. And as you can hear the body rolling away, this thing is absolutely paper thin, but I love the way it came out. I wanted to use up the last of a bunch of different paint cans I had. So it started out with a copper and it started spurting a little bit, so you can see those little dots in there. So then I just did the gold the same way, spurting it, and you got this like gold to copper fade on the sides and a little bit in the hood. It's not perfect. It wasn't supposed to be. It was just using up leftover paint, but I like the way it came out. There's also a couple little cracks on the fender. I was playing ball with the dog. The ball hit the body and cracked it. If you're going to be using this for regular use, I'd highly recommend the light or standard body. If you're doing racing and you're super serious about it, then go ultralight, but just know it's going to take a lot more damage. All right, GPS is on. I don't expect too much on 2S. But I don't know, this car has a lot of gear on it with that included pinion that comes in the kit. Yeah, pretty slow. Pretty slow on 2S. A ton of steering in this thing. I mean, this is on just 0 parameter dual rate. You barely touch this thing with your thumb, and it is flying in the direction that you barely turn it towards. Okay, so we fixed our steering trim and we actually reversed the motor wires. I forgot you got to reverse it on this motor. I had them in there backwards. So we hit 29 the first time. That's a lot faster than 29 now. Might have to turn that steering dual rate down for here in the parking lot. For the track, you'd probably be good to go, but that is a lot for this parking lot. Oh, spun out right there. Oh, through the McDonald's. All right, let's see what we hit actually on 2S here. 48. Wow, that's actually kind of crazy. That didn't even feel like 48 miles an hour. This thing is planted. That is a lot of gear though, so I'm curious what it's going to end up doing on 3S. All right, we gotta be careful because I don't know what the gearing's gonna do on this thing. Here's a little track. Figure we come around this little no parking area, make a left through here, go through these cones, whip it quick, make a right, whip it quick, make a left, and then back out and around. Nothing too crazy there, but I'm gonna set you guys on the tripod and we're gonna rip a few laps. We're unfortunately starting to overheat a bit, so I'm gonna let it cool down for just a minute and then we're gonna throw that 3S in there. This is a ton of gearing for a 4600 kV motor. All right, we hit 48 mile an hour on 2S. We'll see what we can do on 3S here. Went off the road. All right, we turned the dual rate down to 65. That seems to help a lot. All right, let's see what we got here. 71. Holy shit. I mean, the sheer speed and power of this thing on 3S is absolutely insane. All right, so unfortunately the motor overheated on 3S, which I kind of expected with that crazy gearing going on. And this isn't really a speed run car, it's a track car, but it did really good on the speed run. 71 mile an hour, very, very controllable at that speed, tons of grip. As you can see, a little bit of tire wear by all that rubber built up there, and we're, you know, chafing the tires a little bit. But burning rubber is what we're here for, especially doing donuts and burnouts. That's where it's at. Body held up absolutely fantastic. Zero breaks except for, you know, where I broke it before we went out. And we did hit the cone and get a little dent here, and then I just put my finger in and popped it out. So body did really good. Didn't have any big crashes either, though, so we didn't put it to true test. As for the chassis, guys, this car did absolutely magnificent in that parking lot. Loads of grip and more steering than you could ever even ask for or want, and which is a great thing because it can always be tuned back. It's a lot harder and more expensive to get more of it. This thing has plenty. And the crazy part is that's with plastic bell cranks and plastic hinge pin holders. So you can make this car even more stiff, direct, and precise with optional upgrades. Now, the surface we were running on was not perfectly level. There were some dips and some rough spots. And as you can see, we got a few scrapes, nothing too severe, but unfortunately, where that gear pokes through the bottom a little bit there, just so slightly, we ran over one section where it did somehow manage to get up in there just a little bit. It could have even been a pebble, and it didn't chip the spur gear, but it definitely hit it and marked it up a bit. And you could see a bit more of the damage here on the pinion gear as well. I'm guessing it was a pebble. At first, I thought the mesh might have been a little messed up, so I did pull it in and check. So my guess is an itty bitty stone, little piece of asphalt, anything really that's tiny and hard got up got up in there and caused that little bit of scraping. Nothing crazy. It did make the gears sound just a little which is kind of what made me think a second time, oh, maybe it is the mesh, and I pulled it in again, and that's when I noticed a little bit of scraping. So keep that in mind if you're going to be running this on parking lots or on the road compared to the track. Obviously, this car is meant for the track, but just bashing around, you're going to be perfectly fine. Just keep an eye on your gears. Another thing too, the way these body posts are with this body, instead of doing more work and getting it to clear over the tower and everything else, I left them at this point, and the body sits up over the chassis, so there is room to set this body even lower and lower your chassis as well if you're searching for more grip or speed runs, etc. Now, the overall build experience went absolutely fantastic, except for a couple small hiccups. A few things in the manual aren't perfect, so you got to slow down, use a little bit of common sense, work your way through it. And then also, they did short me one M3 by 8mm button head screw, which was no big deal because I had one laying around, but I did think it was worth noting. But on the flip side of that, they give you like half a car worth of hardware for spares. They also give you shock pistons, spacers. You got plenty of extra oil left over. Other than those couple hiccups, though, the fit and finish of this car are excellent, just like the other Louise RC vehicles we've had on the channel. Speaking of which, if you haven't already checked them out, we have a build and running video of the Louise LRX, along with a build and running video of the Louise LDX already up on the channel, and we'll leave a link to one of them up here. I've become a huge fan for the Louise RC brand. As we've built these, carried them in the store, a lot of you guys are having really good experiences with them. And for the money, these are some of the best on-road options out there. The Louise LTX comes in right at $230 for the chassis minus wheels, tires, body, and electronics. So if you're buying all brand new, you don't have anything to start with, you can budget this thing out and be all in for under $500. If you already have battery, transmitter, you're going to be in it for even cheaper. And for the money, if you're not sure about on-road racing and you want to get started, this is a great option. Looking for a speed run build, this would definitely be a good option. Keep in mind, I'm not a professional on-road racer, so you put this in the hands of somebody experienced, I'm sure they're going to find things wrong with it as far as like really competitive on-road racing goes. But as far as the general user, I have zero complaints. The Louise RC cars in general are just super fun to build, and you do get a lot of value for your money. Just pay attention in the manual and make sure you get all your hardware, because that seems to be where the little hiccups are. But as far as parts going together and everything, it's always a really good experience with these cars. As always, if you're interested in the Louise LTX, any other Louise RC vehicles, Revenge RC bodies, Connect electronics, SRT servos, and anything else RC related, you can click the links down in the description below or head directly over to our website at www.naughtyrc.com. And remember, keep an eye